December 15th has come, and that means what? The trade season has started in the NBA. How active should the Washington Wizards be? In my humble opinion, very, very active. Tonight, we're going to talk about veterans, tradable players, draft picks, young prospects, and everything under the sun when it comes to the trade deadline and leading up to it. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again. Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Wizards Daily Newsletter, a one-stop shop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Wizards newsletter. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, everybody, as you guys know, December 15th marks what? The beginning of the NBA trade season. So we're going to look at which veterans are going to be shopped, what other players are tradable, what are our expectations when it comes to draft picks, and what young prospects should the Washington Wizards look to get in return in any prospective trade. So like I said, trade season is amongst us, and the Washington Wizards should be very, very active at the deadline, if not before the deadline, because like I said, December 15th was the go point. That was the green light for teams to start making deals. Dennis Schroeder was the first domino to fall in the NBA landscape as the Brooklyn Nets sent him to the Golden State Warriors. So, but we're talking about our beloved Wiz kids tonight. So let's start with veterans. Let's look at the veterans who would definitely be shopped. And then look at the likelihood of who will be moved and who won't not be moved. So let's get into it, everybody. We're going to start with Jonas Valanciunas. So looking at his contract, he's got a 3-year contract for worth $30.2 million. So for a chance to trade, I put it at a medium. And the reason for that, number one, we know Will Dawkins was playing chess, not checkers. He acquired Jonas Valanciunas for 2 reasons. Number one, to be a mentor to players like Alex Sarr, Marvin Bagley, Tristan Vucevic, but he also to be productive when called upon. He's played high-level basketball here in the DMV. Whether it's starting or coming off the second unit, he has shown his worth. Rebounding numbers, interior offense, interior defense. So he definitely is a guy that a lot of teams are going to be interested in. Now, the biggest name floated around is the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, what do we want to return, obviously, for Jonas Valanciunas? Draft picks. Now, with him being by himself in his prospective deal, you're probably looking at 2 second-round picks. Now, if you put him in a deal with a player like Kyle Kuzma, another player who is connected to the Los Angeles Lakers, you very well could get that first-round pick and young prospects in return. You probably would have to take on expiring contracts if you look at the contract not only of Jonas Valanciunas, but prospectively of Kyle Kuzma. And then also looking at the prospective players that you can get in return for the Lakers, you're probably looking at D'Angelo Russell and or Gabe Vincent. So, like I said, looking at Jonas Valanciunas by himself, I'm going to give it a medium. And the reason for that, there was reports saying that they do value his mentorship and his leadership in the locker room. Could it be smoke and mirrors? I think so. I think he's definitely going to be a player that's not only going to be shopped at the trade deadline, if not before, but he's going to be moved at some point because his contract is very team-friendly, both for the Washington Wizards and for prospective trading teams. But also, look at that skill set. Yes, he has shown that he can still score in the interior. He can still defend in the interior. And he's a guy who can still be a good rebounder. He's definitely made the Wizards better. We're not quite there overall as a team, as we all know, but he has definitely been a bright spot when it comes to rebounding for the Washington Wizards. So saying that for a team that, definitely needs more rebounding, needs more presence in the paint, like the Los Angeles Lakers, like the Knicks, as far as the backup center, because they do have Cat over in New York, he would be a really good trade piece because, again, over the course of 3 seasons, he's only earning $30 million. So it's a crazy cheap contract. So I think it's a medium. Like I said, could they hold true to them wanting him to be here long term? Yeah, but in that scenario, you have to move him or Rashawn Holmes because you've got to see what you have in Tristan Vucevic. You cannot mess around with that. You have to see what you have in Tristan Vucevic. So, in my humble opinion, you got to move Jonas or Rashawn Holmes at this deadline because you've got to give Tristan Vucevic at least some backup minutes at the center position, man. And then when you add in, Marvin Bagley III, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you want to see a lot more young players coming up. So Jonas, in my humble opinion, if you move on from Jonas Valanciunas, Rashawn Holmes is definitely the next domino to fall as far as veteran guys, whether this deadline or in the offseason. But you want to give Tristan Vucevic and Marvin Bagley III, more an extended look. Both of them, I think you definitely, especially for Tristan Vucevic, because you have to see what you have in him. Second round pick. We saw limited action last season. We need to see what we have in him. All right, moving on, guys. Veteran number 2, Kyle Kuzma. Looking at this contract, he has 3 years, $64.3 million left on his contract. Now, normally I would say a medium chance of trade because he's a guy who's made it known that he likes DC, likes the organization. They do like him. And he has put roots in the area, obviously, becoming a small business owner for a few restaurants in the area. But I'm going to put the chance of trade high because what has changed from last season? Well, with the emergence of Bilal Coulibaly being possibly a second or third option offensively, and this could be the breakout campaign for the second-year player Bilal Coulibaly. And the situation the team is, we're 3-21. I think the writing's on the wall that he's going to be moved at some point, whether before or at the deadline, because there's teams out there that need that 20 plus. Well, he's probably not going to be averaging 20 on a competing team, but the chances are there's teams going to need a guy at 6'9", 6'10" who can definitely score at a high clip. He can use his size to attack the rim. Like I said, he does bring a sense of versatility. Now, can he be lacking in a little bit to a certain degree as far as athleticism? Yes. Can efficiency be an issue with him? Yes. But I think he's definitely a guy who can score at a high clip, whether it's as a starter or on the second unit. Every competing team, every playoff team needs a guy like Kyle Kuzma. Like I said, I think that you could probably package Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Kuzma in a deal to the Lakers and probably bring on D'Angelo Russell. Like I said, we're going to take a look at D'Angelo Russell's contract, but I believe it is an inspiring contract. So, and then we could possibly get those 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick for Kuz and Jonas Valanciunas, but we shall see. But I definitely think there's a high chance. Now, there's obviously other teams out there that have a lot of interest in Kyle Kuzma. Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, I think Cavs. If I'm looking at Cleveland, I'm getting Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro on the first-round pick, but we have a lot of choice, I think. And then something that's kind of throw out there, guys. Officially, and this is a report that came out. This is through Evan Sittery. And he says, quote unquote, the Wizards are believed to have lowered their asking price in trade talks on Kyle Kuzma. Washington held out for 2 first-round picks last year, but the belief is it might only take 1 pick and a prospect. I've been saying it all along, y'all. The Heat, Kings, and Lakers are among the teams showing interest in Kyle Kuzma. So I said this last year. I believe that the asking price of 2 first-round picks was too steep. I feel like you needed to lower it down to a first-round pick and a young prospect because, again, we're going to talk about some young prospects that I think could definitely be really good players in DC and definitely fit the timeline, can definitely be contributors in the same token. So, like I said, we have a lot of choices where we could fit Kyle Kuzma on the trade market. All right, veteran number 3. We all know Malcolm Brogdon. Now, look at Malcolm Brogdon. He is on an expiring contract, but the asking price, or not the asking price, but the price tag is $22.5 million. So, chance of trade. I'm going to say a medium chance. And the reason for that is, hey, availability is your best ability, right? He has shown that, we know that Malcolm Brogdon can play. He is a good player. He's former 6 Man of the Year award winner. He has started, coming out of UVA. He's a good player. He can produce. It's always injuries that are the biggest knock against Malcolm Brogdon. And he's twice this year. He's always been hurt. So I say medium chance is with a price tag of 22.5, that is hard to move an injury prone player. So if we can keep him healthy closer to the deadline, maybe we can flip him. But the chances are you're probably going to have a similar situation that we had with Tyus Jones, which is he's possibly going to walk for nothing because the ask, like I said, 22.5 for injury prone player is a lot to ask, especially for a team that, wants to add that a piece or two going, hitting into the playoffs. But if he's hurt, you're on the, yes, it's an inspiring contract. And I think that's one thing to look at. If it was a multi-year contract, it would definitely be a very risky deal for Malcolm Brogdon. But I think the fact that it is an inspiring deal, could it be a team that may want to risk that move? Maybe. But if I'm a GM, I'm staying away from that because he's injury prone and 22.5, man, that takes up a lot of cap room where you could probably add 2 players where you got one guy that holds up that cap room. And like I say, it's an inspiring deal. So a team that trades for Brogdon is not going to have to be handcuffed to him long term. He's going to be, definitely off the books at the end of the season. So I think it's a medium chance. If he stays healthy, there is a chance we could move him. If he continues to have injury issues, let him be that mentor, let him be that veteran, and let him just, play his contract out here in DC because you're probably not going to get a good return package. So, you definitely want to hold out for the best deal. So we're going to get into who, outside of the veterans, who are your more tradable guys? Because you best believe everybody outside of the 5 draft picks under Will Dawkins is tradable. But there also was a report that Jordan Poole is out of bounds. I mean, they are not shopping Jordan Poole. They are holding on to Jordan Poole through this trade deadline. So he, like I said, he is off the books. So Well, not off the books salary wise. He's still on the team, but he's a guy that right now he is untouchable. They are not listening to offers for Jordan Poole. So, like I said, we're going to get into the other tradable players and young prospects that the Washington Wizards should definitely target at the trade deadline. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. You guys know me. I am a sports fanatic. I go to games all the time. Baseball season, going to be more in DC to watch my Nats, my O's. Football, obviously the Commanders. Come on now. And then basketball, we already know. But I've tried every ticket in that. And to me, Game Time is the best out of all of them. I ain't going to name drop nobody, but there's three main reasons why I rock with Game Time over their competitors. Well, number one, Game Time picks. Creation makes it easier to save more on sports tickets, but it ain't all about sports, right? Concerts, comedy shows, theater events, etc. They can hook you up with any kind of Friday night event. What else? All in pricing. Talking this feature shows a total upfront with no surprise fees to check out. So a $50 ticket doesn't turn into a $120 ticket because it happens with the competitors. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you don't end up sitting behind that beam at Northwest Stadium and ask me how I know. So look, do yourself a favor. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Tonight's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you thought about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me all the time. Lord, I have a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million. Good Lord. And cancel subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features in the subscription tracker I've used it to cancel is a subscription tracker. My fault. I use it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore. And I'm already saving a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. rocketmoney.com/LockedOn. All right, everybody, let's get back into this thing. So let's get into what other players are definitely tradable on the Wizards roster, because there are a few that could be very well on their way out of town also. So looking at number one, Marvin Bagley III. He is on an expiring 1 year, $12.5 million contract. And I give him a medium chance of being traded. Reason for that, very affordable contract. A guy who's shown that with the proper environment, the proper coaching, the proper supporting cast, he can have the high motor. He can definitely have the confidence and produce. You didn't see it, at Sacramento. You didn't see it in Detroit, but you have seen it here in Washington. A 3-level scorer, yes, not a sniper per se, but a guy who could definitely stretch the floor from 3-point range and mid-range. A guy who also very active in the paint, rebounding, and rim protecting. So he's a guy who I think that you definitely could possibly consider keeping him around long term. But could he be a tradable commodity? Absolutely, especially if you need a salary filler. 2.5 could definitely be that one contract, could definitely push a trade over the top. So he's definitely tradable. But if you don't move him, you definitely consider signing him long term, in my opinion. You definitely sign him to a very team friendly extension. You can definitely fulfill the CBA portion of how much of the salary cap you have to, spend. And I think that's a win-win for this team. I think that you can definitely get some value for him if you add him to a trade. Now, if you try to trade Marvin Bagley III by himself, you're not going to get the most immaculate return. But if you throw him in a deal like LA, and other teams where he could be that salary filler, where a team could be like, okay, he's shown that he can produce with the right environment. So I think that the narrative is changing on Marvin Bagley III. With him being a low motor guy in Detroit and Sacramento, you see that he can have a high motor. When he's confident, he can be a productive player. So I give him a medium chance of being traded at the deadline, if not before. All right, number two, Richaun Holmes. Now, like I said earlier, I mean, if you do not move Jonas Valanciunas, you have to move Rashawn Holmes. You have to see what you have in Tristan Vucevic, and you have to give some minutes to Marvin Bagley III. They either A, move him, or B, see if he's that future piece. Looking at Rashawn Holmes, he had on a 2-year contract for $25.8 million. So I give it the same thing, kind of give it a 50% chance, a medium chance of trade, because if you move on from Jonas Valanciunas, which I think they're definitely going to, do you still hold on to Rashawn Holmes? I think so. He's definitely a guy who, in the event of injuries, you can keep him around. His contract is team friendly. Again, testament to Will Dawkins for signing these guys on the cheap. He's on an affordable contract. You don't necessarily need to move him this year. You probably move him next year because he will be an expiring contract. But like I said, if you move on, if you decide to hold on to Jonas Valanciunas, at least for another year or two, then you probably move on from Rashawn Holmes, especially if you also move on from Marvin Bagley III, because you have to see what you have with Tristan Vucevic. So you have to have a veteran center. And like I said, Marvin Bagley III can play the 4 and 5. So, and then that's another reason why I think you definitely keep him around. So Rashawn Holmes, a medium chance, really depends on the market, not only for his services, but for Jonas Valanciunas, and whether Jonas Valanciunas is moved at the deadline, if not before. All right, last guy on the list for tradable contracts. And this is not so much tradable at the deadline this year. I'm kind of looking ahead a little bit. Corey Kispert. Obviously, this year he is in the last year of his current contract, where he's making $5.7 million this year. But his rookie extension kicks in next season. So his price tag still will not be that bad. I give it a low chance of trade. And the reason for that is because his extension kicks in next year, and he will not be eligible to be traded till next year. Now, I believe there's ways you could make him move this year, but I mean, I can see the Denny route. They've already signed him to that team-friendly rookie extension. They're probably going to move him on draft night or sometime in the offseason, my humble opinion. You could see him be a piece they hold on to. You need a shooter like Corey Kispert, a guy who high basketball IQ, a guy who defensively, is a mixed bag. But offensively, a guy who slashes at the basket, moves well without the basketball, drives to the basket. He has immense value, not only here in DC, but on a prospective trade team. So, like I said, I'd see the likelihood of him wearing another uniform next year if indeed they decide to move him at some point. So I give him a low chance of being traded. All right, guys. So those were my veterans that I definitely see that are going to be moved, and then some tradable guys in Marvin Bagley III, Rashawn Holmes, and Corey Kispert. Honorable mention. We have not talked about them yet. Johnny Davis and Patrick Baldwin Jr. Obviously, both of their options were declined for next year. But what are their chances of being traded? I say medium. The reason for that, in the event of both Johnny Davis and Patrick Baldwin Jr., there could be some team that says, look, we could try to fix them. Johnny Davis has shown renewed energy this season as opposed to other seasons. And yes, he has not lived up to that 10th overall pick selection, but he's a guy that, they could keep him here another year. I think Brian Keefe has done wonders getting, definitely improving his play. Now, a lot of that credit does go to Johnny Davis. His work ethic, the fact he kept on working. He's always been a hard worker. And defensively, he's always been a good defender. But offensively, the shot looks good. You see more speed when it comes to attacking the basket, as opposed to just using footwork and finesse. You see him a lot more speed, improved ball handling. So if they decide to keep him at least for another year, that wouldn't be a bad move. But then if you can also add him into a future deal, because especially with the salary, I mean, it's an inspiring deal. So maybe a team says, between him and Patrick Baldwin Jr., if not both, say, look, we probably fix these guys. They have some potential. So like I said, I think it's a medium chance. Obviously, neither one of them are going to be moved by themselves. They're going to be either, a deal where a team may want to fix them or see if they can be part of their future to a certain degree, or B, be a salary filler for a trade, kind of like Marvin Bagley III. So, like I said, I think they could definitely be added to a trade. But like I said, it is a 50-50 chance. It's a medium chance because either way, neither one of them are probably not going to be on the team next year. So maybe you try to get some value for both these guys. But, let's be real. Johnny Davis does not have a lot of value. And same thing with PBJ. The value is not going to be at that height to the point where you're going to, you know what I mean? So they could probably be thrown into a trade, but they're not going to be moved out by themselves. And the likelihood is they probably don't be on the team, especially in the second half. Maybe they see what they can do in the second half when you move on from a lot of these vets, but they're probably not going to be on the team next year. And that's just being 100 with you guys. So we're going to get into what young players should the Washington Wizards take a look at and try to get in return for any prospective trade? We're going to get into that next. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 minutes of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Tonight's episode is also brought to you by BILT. Today's episode, again, is sponsored by BILT Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to BILT, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks and is completely free to join. It's free, y'all. Earn valuable BILT points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to BILT members. I love using BILT for travel. I love the travel. I love the fly. I love the always go somewhere new. So I think that stuff like BILT Rewards is a big plus. So I definitely recommend it because look, you got to pay rent anyway. So you might as well get paid to pay rent. It's crazy as that sounds, right? So do yourself a favor, guys. Start entering points on rent. You've already paying by going to BILT.com or join BILT.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinBILT.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All right, everybody, let's get back into this thing. So, what young prospects? Now, before we even get into that, or matter of fact, we'll talk about draft picks in a minute, but what young prospects should we look for in return for any prospective trade? So, I got a list of guys that I think we should definitely ask about in any trade. So, we have some guys where you definitely can see us acquiring them. You have a few guys where, if you want to swing for the fences, by all means, you swing for the fences because there's a couple of guys who could definitely shorten this rebuild. So let's get into the list, guys. Number one, we talked about him before, Jonathan Kuminga. Now, the reason why he may not be a target anymore for the Washington Wizards because now you see he's getting those minutes. So now he's being seen in a whole new light in Golden State. So who else could you look at as far as being a young prospect in Golden State? Moses Moody. Moses Moody is a similar guy, 6'5". He played a 2, he played a 3-and-D guy. He can definitely stretch the floor beyond three-point range, and he can defend. I think he definitely slide at the 2 guard for this team, if not be a 6-man and come off the bench. And he fits the timeline age-wise. And Moses Moody would be a guy, if you're talking to Golden State, you try to acquire Moses Moody. Now, obviously, you want to talk about Jonathan Kuminga, but I think at this point, like I said, everything changes. Everything could change more within the next 30 to 60 days. The market changes. So, Kuminga, subject on any changes in Golden State could be an acquirable piece yet again. But right now, I think you kind of shift towards Moses Moody because, like I said, he's getting Kuminga's getting more minutes in Golden State. He's being very productive, and they're looking for adding another star in Golden State. So, saying that, could he be thrown into a deal for another star? Maybe send him to Miami for Jimmy Butler. Would Kyle Kuzma be that star they're looking for to really push Golden State over the top? I'm saying no. Now, would he be a valuable piece, a viable scoring option for the Golden State Warriors? Absolutely. But, like I said, it really depends on hitting the market at the right time and what deals are you competing with? Because if you're competing with Jimmy Butler, they're going to give Miami Jimmy Butler, or they're going to give Miami Jonathan Kuminga for Jimmy Butler. But for Kyle Kuzma, do they still make that same deal? They're probably going to, kind of shift towards Moses Moody. So Moses Moody's a guy that I would definitely ask for because, again, he's a guy 6'5", man. He plays a 2, he plays a 3, and he would fit in nice with what the Wizards are trying to do. All right, number 2, or really number 3. We already talked about this guy before. But we're going to talk about a couple guys on the Houston Rockets, Cam Whitmore and Jabari Smith Jr. Now, Cam Whitmore, currently in the G League, they have so much talent in Houston that their first-round pick is down the G League. So, or last year's first-round pick, that is. Reece Shepherd, I believe he was just sent to the G League because he started out hot. Now he's kind of struggling. So, we'll see if they give Cam Whitmore more minutes, but you at least ask. I think that Ken Whitmore is a guy who's from the DMV, from the state of Maryland. He's a guy, he's a local guy. He's NBA ready. He's ready to go now. He can start now. He's a beast. He's a scorer. He's a dog. I mean, he can fit in nicely in Washington. Now, obviously, the biggest question that arises is what? Where would he fit? Now, he can play the 4. Would that be the best fit? Maybe. Because Bilal to me is the future at the 3. Now, could Bilal to play the 2? Absolutely. That's the thing about having versatility on your roster. That's the biggest thing about targeting versatile players, where you can shift them to other positions. Bilal can't play the 2. And as that defensive element to the 2 guard, especially if you put him next to Jordan Poole, which Jordan Poole has played really good defense this year. So, but it can't help or it can't hurt really to have a defensive minded 2 guard next to him. But like I said, I think he could fit if you want him to fit. But we'll see, because I think that Houston could be hesitant to move him from Cam Whitmore. Anytime you have a nice young scorer, he's in the G League, but you have so much of an influx of talent in Houston where they're going to make some moves. They're going to move some of these guys. And that really leads into the next guy, Jabari Smith Jr. Looking at Jabari Smith Jr., he definitely deserves a bigger role, one that he's not going to get with the Houston Rockets right now. I mean, with all the mouths they have to feed as far as that offense, he's usually one of the last dogs at the bowl when it comes to getting the ball. So he could be an all-star in DC, y'all. 6'11". He can score, and he has defensive potential. At 6'11", you slide him right next to Alex Sarr, then and Bilal Coulibaly, and you have a really good defensive trio. And when you look, I'm trying to tell you, that would be a good move. So I would definitely ask about Jabari Smith Jr. because, like I said, if you want to swing high, you go after Jabari Smith. Now, like I said, just like Cam Whitmore, Houston's going to be a little hesitant because, unless you give them a package or a trade scenario where it's too good to pass up. If you swing for the fences, maybe. But here's the thing, and this is just being 100 about it and being totally honest. What players would they want on our roster? I mean, what player would Houston want right now? I mean, the biggest thing is, yes, I think Jordan Poole is a fringe all-star. But do they have room for him right now? I don't think so. Looking at Kyle Kuzma, during his Wizards tenure, I think he was a fringe all-star too. Now this year, obviously his production has dipped, but he does have value. But would he be enough? Because we don't want to give up first-round picks. Now we'll give up players. Corey Kispert is tradable. Marvin Bagley III is tradable. So we got to try to make a deal where using only players, because we were going to be hesitant to move any of our picks unless we want to start utilizing some of these second-round picks. So Jabari Smith Jr., I would definitely ask about him, man. I think it's going to be a low likelihood that we can swing that move. I think that you have more of a likelihood of pulling off Cam Whitmore, and I think they're going to be hesitant to say yes to Cam Whitmore unless we give them a good package. And you're really going to have guys who are ready to contribute right away. You can't give them players who need to be developed. And we shouldn't be trying to give away young talent or picks anyway. So I think Houston's going to be very, very hesitant to move on from either one of those guys. But you always ask, right? Moving on, guys. Bol, we already know. With his size, with his ability, he's a guy that can be molded. He would not take a lot to acquire Bol. And with us going to a youth movement in the second half of the season, hopefully, he's a guy that gives him some minutes and see what you can do. Give Brian Keefe an opportunity to work with Bol and see if you can really reach that potential, if you can tap that potential. I think that you have the right environment for that. Look at players like Malcolm. Malcolm Brogdon is cool, but players like Marvin Bagley III, where they've been able to unleash some of that potential. I think you can do the same with Bol. All right, the guy from the Lakers. We already talked about him before, too. Nice young guard. Now, acquiring him would be tricky because of his rookie deal. But he could be an add-on to any prospective move with the Lakers, or it could be part of any 3-team trade. But I think you definitely ask for Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's a nice young guard who can definitely come off the second unit. We all know what the future is. Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington at point guard. But we got Jared Butler. But looking at his contract situation, he may not be here next year. So you must as well plug in a young guard in Jalen Hood-Schifino. A couple other names. One I have mentioned before, one I haven't. Let's give the one we mentioned out of the way. If we look at Miami as being a trade partner, Nikola Jovic is definitely the name I'm looking at. A guy, if you look at his size, if you look at his ability defensively and offensively, I'm trying to tell you guys, he would slide nicely between Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly. He's definitely a guy that I would he would be the first name I even bring up if I talk to the Miami Heat for any prospective trade. And then last on the list, Ousmane Dieng. Yes, that guy, the French player out of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very, very raw player. But in saying that, yes, is he a very raw player? Yes. But I think that with what we have going on in DC, I think he's a guy where if you can see if you can mold him under head coach Brian Keith, you definitely do that, man. Because looking, I think that you would not have to give up a lot of assets to acquire him. What player could you send to Oklahoma City? We're gonna look at that trade this week. Matter of fact, so like I said, Friday is gonna be a big trade night. So we're gonna go over a lot of prospective trades to get your guys' opinions on that. And we're gonna look at the best case scenario as far as where's the best fit for a lot of these vets and tradable players. So that is the list, guys. Like I said, definitely get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. But look, trade season has started. How active should the Wizards be? I think they should be very, very active because the 2025 and 2026 NBA drafts are the finishing touches on this roster. We've got to be active this deadline, if not the next deadline. But we ain't worried about that deadline yet. We're worried about this deadline. I think that the Wizards should definitely try to get as much assets in return for their veteran talent and their tradable commodities as they can. And I think this should be one of the most aggressive teams in the NBA. So you guys get in the comment section and let me know. So all right, tomorrow, guys, we have special guest Damo of the Wizards of Gallery Place podcast. So definitely tune in tomorrow and must see TV with me and my guy Damo again from the Wizards of Gallery Place podcast. So shout out to him. So definitely tune in 7:00 tomorrow night for that. All right, everybody. Again, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And why? Let your boy know. Get in the comment section and get active. All right, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Hail to the Wizards and peace.